value in terms of opportunities. We bring value to the area, and we create a long-term sustainable economy for Bath North East Somerset. And that's not something the council can do by itself. We hold some of the levers. We have the ability to influence certain things, but it's really important that we see that as a piece of work that involves all partners and actually, the whole of the community of the area. So, as you said, we set this group up, and we started to do a number of things and a number of initiatives, and Bath Unlimited is one of those things that's come out of the conversations that we've had. But it's very important that actually we have the conversation in the wider sense, as opposed to just having it every sort of couple of weeks within the partnership. So I think today is really about sort of bringing this conversation to a wider audience, and now starting to understand some of those challenges on a wider scale, and to start that conversation, like I say, so that we can, as a group of people who've each got responsibilities to organisations that are making decisions on a daily basis, we've got a greater sense of what that wider context is when we are actually
So I don't know whether or not everyone's lost the connection with Will there. So we might have a slightly strange moment where he might start speaking over me speaking. But as Will was saying, that part of what we were hoping to do here is to bring together the wide range of businesses from across the whole of Bath and North East Somerset to help in the rebuilding of our economy. And as you will have been able to tell from the title of this board, this is all about recovery and renewal. And the economic recovery and renewal of Bath and North East Somerset is everyone's business. And that's why we've convened this wide group of businesses, and which includes our 2 universities, and also includes the Bath Improvement District as well, and that's commonly known as the Bath Bid. Also joining us on this call are a number of officers from Bath and North East Somerset Council. And I think on that note, and without further ado, I'm now going to introduce via a series of showcases some of the work that this board has been engaged in. So I'm now going to pass over to Kevin Peake, who's the Managing Director for Royd, Withy and King.
Thank you. I wish I was the Managing Director, but before my boss finds out, I'm actually the Marketing
Director.
I'm
so sorry. I can't read my own writing. You are the Marketing Director, but you probably should be the Managing Director.
Just in case he's tuning in. Thank you very much. And I was invited to join. Invited to join the board. It feels a lifetime ago, back in February and March. And one of the things I suppose I could contribute was, hopefully in a nutshell, Bath Unlimited, as you can see on the screen, about how we can really bring to life some of Bath's hidden talents in businesses. And as we started talking about it at the board, we realised that lots of people know lots of things about lots of firms, but not necessarily the depth or the scale of some of those firms. And Bath's got obviously a lot of rich history for leisure, for retail, but not necessarily for some of the absolutely amazing firms. And actually, some people might know some of the individual firms, but it's only when you bring them together as one group that you really try to see that there's something very special going on in Bath that probably isn't going on in any other place in the UK, and maybe even in the world, and I'll come on to that later. So part of what we were trying to do with Bath Unlimited was to keep a site that was simple, focused on these amazing companies. And one is to build confidence for people in Bath, and so that they feel there's careers, there's other things in the economy that can keep going. apart from just leisure and retail, but also to attract new businesses into Bath, to say, you know, Bath's a great place to work and it's got lots of attractions, but actually having other businesses that are successful here and actually globally successful here is a really important thing. So we started the project, and if we could go to the next slide, what we realised was pretty quickly there's lots and lots of companies, but what's really interesting for Bath is we haven't yet put every single company on Bath Unlimited, partly because of time and we wanted to get it out in October. But as you can see, there's 5 very interesting sectors in Bath. Things that you might not have realised, like defence, but also in our built and natural environment sector, we have generally got global leaders. Pretty amazing. We've got 4 potential global leaders in it, and we've got some fantastic financial services companies and some very dynamic consumer type businesses. We didn't include creative businesses in this because Bath's pretty well known for some of its creative businesses, but also pragmatically we wanted to get this out quickly, and you'll see more firms joining it. If we go to the next slide. We didn't want to create Bath Unlimited so it's every single firm in Bath, and we didn't want it to be the Yellow Pages. We wanted to be about the firms that have this sort of vision and this future, and something that was a little bit different. So there are some firms that are very big in Bath, but not necessarily unlimited in the way they view the world or the way they develop their people. And Unlimited was really this feeling that somehow it was a glue that brought all these businesses together, about the scale of their ambition, about the sense of how they do innovation, and hopefully, you know, a sounding board for other firms to grow from there. Go to the next slide. So if you haven't been on the site launched on the 1st of October. If you click on one of the case studies, you will find out 4 reasons why they are unlimited in their own words. So what makes them special, what makes them completely different. One of the particular ones you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner is a Singapore Skywalk. A lot of people know that, but you might have watched the BBC 2 David Attenborough programme the other night where he said this is what he thinks the future of cities are, and it's designed in Bath. And you can look at the top right-hand corner to Future, where PlayStation and Xbox have launched this week, and they own the 2 biggest gaming magazines in the world, actually. So we've got some amazing businesses, and we need to profile them and get them out, and in a way that makes it easy for them. So it's free, it doesn't cost them any money, and we want them to participate, to share their news across Bath, the UK and globally. Next slide, please. And we've spent a lot of time trying to make a great website. You can see we did a PR launch down there with Will. We've tried to get it in publicity, media, and it's still growing. So it feels a long time, but we launched on the 1st of October, and we've got a pipeline of a whole series of new, interesting ideas. We've just been working with the university, and a group of MBA students are going to start working on some research to add some data to it. And if you're a Bath Rugby fan, we have Bath Unlimited perimeter boards at the Rugby for the new season starting next week. So when that's broadcast live on BT Sport, people will see Bath Unlimited, and hopefully they'll search, and hopefully a lot of those people who are rugby fans will see all the great businesses in Bath. Next slide. We've done tons of social media, and we're sharing the stories. So you can see a picture of John Lennon there at the bottom, and you may not know that John Lennon's famous wire glasses were designed by Inspecs in Bath, and there's some other great stories there. The little table in the middle on the right hand side is showing that Bath is #1 in the UK for positivity. So there's some great stories out there, and we're trying to use Bath Unlimited. So please follow it on social media, please share it, and keep the momentum going, because we want to try and get it wide. We're getting lots of global interest when we check the social media. We had some people from Sweden last night retweeting some stuff. So we're trying to get the Bath name out there as much as we can. Next slide. One of the things we want to take it next is not just about the companies, but about the careers and the employment. There's some amazing jobs that come out of these companies, and very few people are aware of them. And David Holby of Bath Bid and St John's came up with a brilliant phrase recently called aspirational ambition. How can we show people in Bath that these careers do exist? that there's some fantastic opportunities, and we need to make sure that people are aware of the types of pioneering, innovative and amazing companies that are in Bath, and that could be future careers for a number of people going through education at the moment. And then the final slide is just to say, you know, we want this to grow. It's early stages. So if you've got any ideas or you've seen things today that inspired you, please get in touch. There's a contact form on Bath Unlimited, and we're always welcome for new ideas. It's non-profit making, and we want to keep pushing it out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kevin, and I hope you don't get into trouble with your boss. Okay, so moving on and just showing the sort of breadth of the businesses that are involved with Bath and North East Somerset's economic recovery and renewal. I'd now like to introduce William Heath, who is an entrepreneur, along with Crispin Simon, to talk, well, I think about business grants.
Thanks, Dina. Yeah, so I'm William. I'm an entrepreneur. I helped put together the co-op that took over the Bell in Walcott Street and the Big Bath City bid. And I'm working on the Fairfield House, the Haile Selassie legacy to our community. I think Crispin and I mean, like many people, we looked at this crisis that's breaking on us, you know, a pandemic, plus leaving the EU and sort of deepest of all, the climate crisis. And, you know, we were kind of concerned about what was happening and what we could do. And we asked a few questions and were invited to join this economic recovery and renewal panel, which I'm really pleased to see going public today. I think it should be public, and it's absolutely right that it should be reaching out via this sort of webinar. I was trying to work out how this panel actually works, because I'm not very experienced in the ways of councils doing things. So I wrote a long essay to John Wilkinson, who's the senior responsible officer on it. And he very politely rang me up and said, well, he's got a lot on his plate, John, I should say. He said, in Bath, there's lots of very clever people who don't have enough to do. But the way this panel works is you put forward a project, and if the panel likes it, then, well, you can go off and do it. So Crispin and I had to think about this, and we thought there's clearly a lot of help on offer for businesses at the moment, but perhaps no sort of overall directory which brings it all together, and no sense of sort of quality control. It's just presented as raw and random lists. So the project which we've put together for you, I'll just share my screen now, is simply this, really. It's a web page. You can see the URL for it. There's a bit.ly URL, B&NES Recovery. It offers 3 basic functions. You can list a business resource, so I'll check that. That simply takes you to a form where you can say, here's a resource I've used, here's the type of help it is, here's who provides it, and what's the deal on offer, application criteria, deadline, roughly the financial range, and where you get more information. So that's the first thing. If you've used one of these resources, you can review a resource for the benefit of other local businesses. So, you know, if it was one of the COVID loans, then you can just do that here. If you can say what your experience of it was like and how you'd rate it, and any information which would be useful for another applicant. And then finally, you can see a table of those results. And this is simply a spreadsheet. You can copy it and sort it if you wish, and sort of filter and sorry, that noise may be disturbing you a little bit. I'm just going to ask that person to stop blowing.
One of the downsides of us all working in other spaces.
Here we are. The garden's looking tidy, but that's noisy. Good. I've got a couple of minutes to go, so you can just get the results in that way if you want, and that's very easy. So the website then has a little explanation, and also we've done it so that anyone can embed or link any of those forms or results into their website. There's a lot of other websites, Weka and Bath Unlimited and so on, Invest in Bath. Any website that's trying to help businesses and entrepreneurs around here can simply take those forms and those results and embed them. So that's what it is. At the moment, it's all on sort of free URL and hosting. After a week of it being on beta, we could upgrade that. It's live now. You can enter any data now. That'd be really helpful. one thing we would say is Crispin and I would really appreciate if there was somebody who wanted to volunteer a couple of hours a week just to help sense check the data, edit, consolidate, tidy. That would be superb, because if people do start putting information, there will be a bit of consolidating to do. So that's really it. I mean, final observations. I do think this triple crisis is going to be really horrible. There will be kind of winners and losers, and we don't quite know. Some businesses and NGOs are clearly doing really well out of it, but a lot will sort of suffer. And I think there will be business failures. And I say that because it's easy to say, oh, that's capitalism and we'll build that better, with new industries. But I think really only entrepreneurs understand why we do what we do, how hard we work, what keeps us awake at night. And actually, with the best will in the world, what business failure feels like. I think people try to be empathetic, but if you're in, I don't know, politics or public service, or you're a banker or a lawyer or a comfortable sort of corporate executive, you don't really know what that feels like. And I think we should get good at supporting people through business failure. I'd almost prefer to see obituaries in the newspaper, or plant a tree for every business we're going to lose, because each one is a little bereavement or a little divorce, and it does feel like that. But I think, if we approach this crisis as a community in a holistic, non-partisan way, multidisciplinary and constructive, we'll absolutely get through it. And I'm really encouraged to have this panel as a starting place for it. That's me done.
Thank you, William. I don't know, Crispin, if you had anything you wanted to add to that. So you're just the glamorous assistant in this.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you, Dina.
Thank you. And thank you also, William. I think that's been really, really useful. It feels almost like a sort of TripAdvisor for business support. So I'm sure those that are watching this live, and hopefully those that watch this or catch up on YouTube later, will access that particular support that you've offered there. So just proving that Bath in Bath and North East Somerset, we don't just have things that sit on their own. We are actually part of an ecosystem. I'd now like to bring in Sue Rigby, who is the Vice Chancellor of Bath Spa University.
Thanks, Dina. This is very much an innovative project that's being run jointly by Bath College and by me. And I know that Laurel Penrose is in the audience. I think she's there because she had to join late. So it may well be that Laurel has something that she would like to say as well. But Restart is very innovative. It's a reskilling programme for people whose jobs are either at risk or likely to change their nature as a result of the pandemic. And Laurel and I started to really get serious about what that kind of reskilling programme might need to be in May. And the first delivery to people, to recipients of the programme, will start on Monday. So from an entrepreneurial point of view, that's excruciatingly slow, but for an academic endeavour, it's really quick. We haven't yet actually had any money to support what we're doing. We're just doing it on fumes at the moment, but we've submitted quite a big application to WECA, the West of England Combined Authority, for some support. But really we're doing it because it needs to be done. So there are two reasons to do this. One is the obvious one. There will be a massive transition of people from one kind of work into another as the recovery gets underway. And we're imagining that an awful lot of that will require people to have much better digital skills and actually much better people skills than they have done in the past. And that's what Restart is offering. It's offering it digitally, it's offering it in shop fronts that have been left vacant by the pandemic, and it's offering it through the 32 community centres of Bath College. So it's out there where the need is. And the second reason to do it is that it's a pilot for a much bigger initiative called iStart, which is a shared ambition of the Council, the University of Bath, Bath Spa University and Bath College to bring together innovation, research, training and skills development in a city centre location in Bath. How big is this need? The latest estimates from people like Ian Bell, who's on the panel today, are that maybe 33% of Bath's core industry won't reopen at the end of the pandemic. So, and that 33% will tend to be rather employer intensive and with rather lower skilled employees. So we could expect that up to a third of the local workforce will need to change jobs in the next 12 months. With the furlough scheme seat being extended, we have a little bit longer to support them, but we really don't have long. So Bath College, Bath Spa University, the Institute of Coding and B&NES, whose support we really appreciate in this, have come together and we've worked on curriculum design and the infrastructure for the project and its marketing. We've been very grateful for the support that we've got from members of this panel. In terms of making sure people can access the programme, we're working with Future Bright, with the Department of Work and Pensions, with Mentoring Plus. And on the destination level, we've got 15 key employers, including people like Richard on the panel, who are telling us what employers need, because that seems to be the only reasonable way to design programmes at the moment, directly from the mouths of people who may be employing folk in the future. It's a slightly different approach to digital skills than you're maybe used to, because it targets both the ability to use computer technology and the empathy or leadership to use it well. So we see those two as indivisible. And that's allowing us to work with the Institute of Coding, who have an enormous national and international programme of support at master's level for the digital realm, but have never before linked that together with the kind of softer skills that employers want. We're regionally targeted at the moment, so focusing on Bath and North East Somerset, but if people come in from further afield, then they'll be very welcome. And the intention is to grow the programme until it's no longer needed, and then roll it into iStart as an ongoing process of inclusiveness and increasing the skill base of employers and employees in the region. So that's the overview, but I'd really, really like to give Laurel a chance to come in, Dina, if she can, from the audience as well, because it's much more Bath College's immediate project than ours.
Well, I've managed to arrange for Laurel to be whisked out of the audience and onto the panel. So Laurel Penrose from Bath College, over to you.
Thank you, Dina. I really just want to reiterate what Sue has said. This is an initiative that will develop as time develops and as employers and individuals' needs develop. It is completely responsive to the need at this moment in time, and it will develop over a period of time as those needs are required and as employers find that circumstances change and additional skills, the need to reskill and to upskill changes, and we are there to accommodate that. So it's very flexible. It starts relatively small, and as Sue said, we're starting next week, but it will grow, and it's really there for the public to walk into these shop fronts, to walk into our community centres, and to walk into the college and the university and talk to us as to what they need, and we will signpost them onto the best programs that we've got that we know employers want. So it's an initiative that I think will and is fit for current circumstances, but will also have the sustainability that is needed to get us through this current situation that we're all facing.
Thank you very much, Laurel. So my next person that I'd like to introduce you to is Allison Herbert, who is the Chief Executive of Bath BID. And it'd be really interesting to see how the work that you do fits in with all the work that we are all doing.
Thank you. I've got some slides. I don't know. I can't see them. I don't know if you can.
They're up now.
There we are. So please, could we have the first slide beyond this one? Thank you. So oh, no, not that one. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Allison Herbert, the Chief Executive of Bath BID. Bath BID, it stands for Bath Business Improvement District. So we are, we are located in a specific area, and that's the pink line on the map that I'm sharing with you. And it's an independent, not-for-profit, business-led initiative. And it's actually voted for by the businesses of the city. We're one of a family of about 328, I think now, across the country, but we're one of the more mature members of the BID family, which means I think that Bath Business Improvement District is probably one of the more ambitious BIDs across the country. So our purpose is to create the environment for businesses to succeed by making Bath a better place sounds easy in this kind of terrible COVID pandemic days is really challenging. But we were created very much as a partnership of our between 600 and 700 members, all working together to add value to their business operations and support a better managed city. And just to give you a flavour, the makeup of the membership of the Bath Bid is about 85% what you might describe as high street businesses, so retail and hospitality businesses. So the remaining 15% is our large office sector members who are represented on this economic recovery board, and probably represent a significantly larger number of employees, because obviously some of our retail members would only have a handful of staff, whereas companies like Richard Godfrey's and Rocket Makers and Future Publishing, for example, obviously employ significant numbers of people. Can I have the next slide? So
sorry, have we got a technical problem? So I don't know, Allison, if you're can hear us. We can't hear you anymore. My apologies for those that are watching this. Seems to be a little bit bitty today, I'm afraid. But I think this is one of those the joys of working through Zoom and other similar platforms. You can't always rely on your bandwidth. I'm hoping Allison is going to come back. I just see that she's left temporarily, so I'm sure she'll be back quite soon. I was just wondering, actually, on the call, and I know, John, this is an area of your expertise. We might pick this up later on in terms of just generally broadband and better connections for everybody. But I'll bring that in after we've gone through all the showcases. I know that it's, I've introduced it slightly jokingly, but I think it is a serious issue for many of us. So I'm just having a quick look through the screens to see if I can see the return yet of Allison. Right, I'll give her a few seconds just to see if she pops back. Right, I think what we'll do then is if I move on to Simon Martin to talk a bit about business grants, and obviously as we're now in the second lockdown, I'm sure many will want to know what support there is available, to help businesses in this second lockdown, in addition to all the help that was available during the first lockdown. So Simon Martin, who is, let me make sure I give you the right title.
Allison.
So if I carry on with Simon, and then we'll go, I'll bring Allison in afterwards, so Simon Martin is the Programme Director for the Enterprise Zone.
Thank you, Dina. I'm just going to share my screen for you. There you go. Hopefully you can see that. Yes, I was going to just provide a quick update and context to start with, by way of an introduction to the rollout of the grant scheme for businesses. So as background, people may be aware, but the economy recovered reasonably strongly from the initial lockdown and after the initial phase of COVID kind of activities. So in March, the economy fell by about 20%, but recovery back to the second lockdown was fairly strong, and there was about an 8% drop overall in the UK's kind of gross domestic product. The graph on to the other side of the screen is just an interpretation of the range of forecasts for the west of England around our future growth, and what's clear is that it's highly sort of variable, and so there may be quite a significant impact. And as some of the other panel members mentioned, this has probably a very significant impact on businesses in Bath and on people's jobs and livelihood in Bath. Interestingly, after the first lockdown, there hasn't been any strong evidence that business liquidations have yet tracked at a higher level than previous years. But worryingly, there's a distinct lack of activity in business startups in the west of England. So small businesses and new businesses aren't able to start up and start to replenish some of the businesses we lose. And further to that, sort of introducing the second lockdown, the implication of this in our region affects over sort of 83,000 jobs, which is about 14% of the region's economy. And so there are some significant challenges through this lockdown period, and it's particularly acute for Bath and North East Somerset, where we have a high degree of kind of reliance on the accommodation and food, arts, recreation and entertainment sectors. So, you know, we really do need and rely upon this grant scheme to see us through this next lockdown period. So what's on offer and what's there to support businesses through this? Well, the government have put in place 4 key planks for business support. There's the job retention scheme, which I'm sure most people know about, the furlough scheme now, where employees placed on leave can receive 80% of their pay, up to a maximum of 2,500. There's the increases in the self-employed support programme for the period of November to April. And then there's the local restriction support grant, which I'll talk about today, which is here to support businesses from the 5th of November to the 2nd of December through this lockdown. And finally, the additional restrictions grant, which is the grant that the councils have been given to provide out to businesses at their discretion. And I'll go into a little bit of detail about this one as well. So the local restrictions support grants are essentially an extension of the previous grant scheme that was rolled out from March to sort of mid-May earlier in the year. Through that period, the council paid out £42.9 million from government grant to over 3,900 businesses in Bath and North East Somerset. This time round, for the consolidated period from 5th of November to 2nd of December, we've been allocated 4.24 million, and this will be paid out to businesses that meet the eligibility criteria set out by government. And all this is available on our website through the link and through the application process, which is now live. The grant is paid out against rateable value for businesses, and £1,334 of grant is available for businesses that have a rateable value up to 15,000. There's £2,000 of grant available for businesses between 15 and 51,000, and then as distinct from the first round of grant provision, this time round, businesses with rateable values of over £51,000 are eligible to apply for grants of up to £3,000. So this is now live on the council's website, and since going live on Monday, we've already received in excess of 500 grant applications, and the process hopefully will work through that. We've started to process those, and those will be paid within 14 days of receiving the grant applications. In addition to that, and importantly, this time round, councils have been given discretionary grant money to set up policies to put in place to support businesses as well. So we've done this in coordinating with the other West of England authorities and the West of England Combined Authority to come up with a set of criteria that can support businesses that fall through the net of the local restrictions support grant, to provide businesses to provide grant support to more businesses that are affected this time round. So the types of business that the local policy can pick up and provide some grant support to are the businesses that aren't ratepayers from the premises they trade from, but they are registered for council tax purposes. Also, that if your business isn't required to close because of the lockdown, but has closed due to the significant impact on trading, or if you're continuing to operate as a business, but you're significantly impacted and experiencing significantly reduced demand, those are all classes and classifications that would make you eligible for future businesses. The businesses need to have been trading on the day before the restrictions came into force. You need to have ongoing fixed business costs. You clearly can't be an applicant under the other grant schemes, and you need to have demonstrated you've got significant losses and have fewer than 49 employees. As I say, there's some useful links, but the forms and the website on the council's website are live through the Help Businesses support page, and also through our Invest in Bath platform, which provides business support services to our business community. So in a nutshell, that's the updated process and the information that's now live and receiving applications. Thank you, Dina.
Thank you, Simon. So talking of the business community, I hope that Allison has successfully navigated her way back, and it'd be really good if you could continue with your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Normally I have much better broadband at home than I do in my city centre office, but which is a whole nother story. But I will carry on. So this just set the framework really for the activity that we did, and really what we were looking to provide, particularly in the first lockdown, was just that acting right now, kind of responding to the emergency, and then working in partnership with teams from B&NES and Visit Bath, and anyone else who really was interested in working in partnership, to be honest, to deliver activity that would be useful. It was about capitalising on the assets that we had in terms of staff resource and cash, I suppose, and facilities and equipment, and how we could repurpose those to support the businesses who are basically the partnership, you know, for whom we work. So could I have the next slide, please? So I just did you some pictures to say, well, what did that actually mean? So we kept rangers going all through lockdown when and I had a lovely piece of feedback from a business the other day who was actually closed during the first lockdown. But he came in every day just to do a security check of his premises. And he said, when there was no one else here, it was so great to occasionally see a ranger. It made me feel like I wasn't alone in the city. And, you know, that sort of feedback makes you think, well, yes, it was worth that. And we focused on cleaning the places where we felt that the public would need reassurance. So we were cleaning bus stops and benches and collaborating with the B&NES cleaning team to make sure that we weren't duplicating, but, you know, really trying to create that face of Bath that made people feel safe to come, because we realised that was, you know, whilst we were locked down, we still needed Bath still needed to have its best face on so that people would feel comfortable about coming back. And then as we entered into the sort of planning for people to come back, I'm rather proud of our very positive rainbow footsteps that we created for people to queue outside the shops. At the time when we designed them, everything was about rainbows and the NHS. And I felt like people needed an injection of something positive while they were queuing in a rather dismal situation outside the shop to do their shopping. We maintained our really old-fashioned communication. So we worked hard to make sure all our phones diverted very well, and we were available on the phone. Somebody from the team was available on the phone 7 days a week. And we know that that was really important to the businesses. Again, it's that thing about feeling like there's just somebody listening and somebody you can turn to. And then, and obviously all through that period, we worked with the Invest in Bath team, who worked with Simon Martin and the council, and made sure that we were all sharing the right information and not all trying to duplicate, actually. So we made sure that we weren't paraphrasing the government guidelines. We were actually directing people to the Invest in Bath site so that they weren't getting 5 different versions of, you know, how to apply for the grant and that sort of thing, because actually that's worse than useless. And we did carry on sharing footfall information, and people, that created quite a lot of interest on social media. I think as much from curiosity as from actually, you know, supporting businesses. But our business agenda for that, our commercial agenda for that, was to help people to decide, as you know, as we moved into the reopening, what sort of hours to do, how many staff they think they might need, and that sort of thing. And then we did a really nice thing, which has really helped us to shape our thinking for what the future of the bid might be. And I think we've really learned through the lockdown that working together with people and really trying to understand the community of Bath in terms of the people who work here, the people who live here, as well as our business membership. We did something called the Big Bath Welcome Back. And it was a meeting that was planned anyway. It was going to be a chance for the businesses to interact with all of the creative kind of arts delivery organisations. And they came up with, I think, about 250 amazing ideas. If you ever want to do something exciting in the city that's a bit creative, I've got a long list. It all costs money. But one of the really important things they talked about was inviting the local community back into the city and making them feel part of the kind of decoration and the welcome. And so we created this Bounce Back Bath art competition, which we did in conjunction with Dave Dixon from Minuteman, who was leading that great work on Bounce Back Bath the first time round. And there's a couple of the banners. And then we worked with Visit Bath on a campaign. We paid for some of the graphic identity for this Rediscover Bath campaign, which then Visit Bath was able to deliver through their channels with central government and so on. So that became part of the Enjoy Summer Safely campaign. And so I just thought it'd be interesting, I think, can I have the next slide, to see how did Bath bounce back actually the first time round, before I set the scene about, you know, what we're doing. So this very much reflects what Simon said, but the orange section, Q1, it means Q1 of the fiscal year. So that's April, May, June. And Q2 obviously is as we started to reopen. I can't give you a comparison between the visa spend in quarter 2 or Q3, depending on how you call it, this year with last year, because actually we've transformed the way that we spend money, and Visa's share of the market is now so much greater because none of us want to use dirty pound notes anymore, or they don't exist, dirty £5 notes anymore, that you can't make the comparison. But what it does show is that how important certain sectors are to the spend in Bath's high street. So if you just look, you know, restaurants it was 1 million. It was 1 million in lockdown. It went back up to 30, I think it's 31 million in that middle quarter. And that's a huge amount of money that was absent from our city in that middle quarter. And when you think, you know, when you can make that connection back to the jobs that means, I think we bounced back very well. But whether they can bounce back again is the thing that, you know, we're all quite anxious about. And obviously you can see that the supermarkets, even the supermarkets, did better in Q3 or Q2. So that's quite good. And then people moving about, obviously people bought more petrol and, you know, those sorts of things. And the other thing that we can drill down into this information is look at the transaction value. And typically in Bath, in the restaurant category, on the food and kind of eating out category, the typical spend is about £12 per transaction on Visa. It went down to 7 during lockdown, I guess because people were doing takeaways rather than sitting and eating out. And during the kind of that period where we started to come back to the city and also the Eat Out to Help Out, it went up to over £16 per transaction. So that's quite interesting as well. Even though things were cheaper, it looks like people really wanted to treat themselves. Anyway, if I could have the next slide. And the footfall tells you a kind of similar story. I always show trends rather than actual numbers on the footfall because you can't be out, because people are counted in so many different places. Telling you the numbers doesn't reveal anything. But looking at the trends, you can see by September, we were really bumping close to last year's figures. And in fact, the first Monday of half term, we were only 5% down in footfall terms on the previous year. So Bath was feeling busy, wasn't it? Just before we locked back down again. And obviously it's, you know, it's fallen off a cliff in November. But Bath has definitely shown that it's got all the ingredients that, you know, to make a successful bounce back the first time round. Could I have the next slide? So now we're back in lockdown again. So our focus is on information, operational support, and then a new project we're doing, which is called Welcome to Bath. Could I have the next slide? So I've been asked to share this with you. Welcome to Bath was going to be a What's On website, and about 5 days before it was going to go live, we realized that we were locking down again. And so we did that pivoting thing that everybody talks about doing, and we did it very successfully. I think I'm extremely pleased with the work that the team did on this, and we turned it to What's Open in Bath. So I would urge anybody who's listening to go and have a look at what's open in Bath. We've done everything we can to include just about everything that's currently operating. So if there's an opportunity to spend money with a business in the city centre, we have tried to create to make that link easier for the public. If you could have the next slide. Thank you. So this just gives you the drop down. So we've split businesses up into essential shops, healthcare services, banks, and kinds of takeaways that you can do, and then online shops. And we've actually made a separate section for independents, which isn't showing. So you can search by the kind of things that you would be most interested in. Can I have the next slide? And you can search by using the map. So you can say, you know, what is there around me in this street that's open, if you wanted to. And actually, I just like to say thank you, because of the partnership work that we've done with B&NES, we were able to get some of the government's reopening the High Street Safely Fund, which paid for the funky maps on the website. Otherwise, it probably would have been just a little bit of a stretch for the bid to do it all by ourselves. So so that's been a real success. Could I have the next slide? So we started it on the 6th of November. Can't believe it's been up for a week. We had in the very first 5 days, we had almost 1,000 users, which is quite exciting. Some people came back more than once, and 324, which is the money one, which is links clicked so people who went onto other people's websites, your business's websites, and tried to spend some money, hopefully. So a kind of whistle stop. I think that's it. Is there one more? Oh, looking forward. So I know it's a bit early to talk about Christmas, and who knows whether we'll be allowed to open, but we are redoing our banners, because it doesn't matter if we're open, we can still have banners, and people, when they're exercising, can still come and see the banner that Uncle Joe or little Freddie designed. They're all at the printers at the moment. We'll be putting any events that are on, and special offers and things like that, on the Welcome to Bath website. We are doing some lighting of the city centre that will be in addition to the B&NES traditional kind of fairy lights. We're lighting up the Abbey, excuse me, and the Mineral Hospital. And it seems like such a perfect year to light up the Mineral Hospital, as the last year that it's a hospital is very much a celebration of the NHS this year, and obviously it's one of the first public hospitals, if not the first public hospital. I'm sorry, I don't know. I must learn that fact in the country. I know it's something that we in Bath should be very proud of. And obviously, you know, we've had Santa in already. He came to check out the shops. He's going to be doing, assuming the shops are allowed to be open, he's going to be doing a sort of like an advent trail of a letter to Santa, so people can come and post their letter to him, so avoiding the need to get too close. They only interact with the letterbox, and he'll be writing back to people if they put a stamped addressed envelope in the pillar box, so we know what I'll be spending every evening doing in the month of December. Anyway, there is reason to be positive, but I think you know, we have to carry on looking forward, and I feel like it's my role to try and be that kind of positive voice for the businesses of Bath, and it's just great that the kind of business community is able to, you know, come together in the way that this economic board does in order to create action and operational things that will make a difference to the businesses in Bath. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Alison, and thank you again for coming back. And I certainly, you know, now thinking what I'm going to write to Santa and ask for. But as we all know, so the businesses of Bath and North Somerset are not just limited to the ones or the types that we've been showcasing. And so I'm actually going to put a couple of people on the board on the spot, because tourism, so this gives you a clue who's going to be being asked to speak next, is a vital part of our offer in this area. So I was just going to ask Colin Skellett, who, as well as being the Chief Executive of Wessex, I may have just got your title wrong there, but he's also the chair of Visit Bath. And I just wondered if you could give perhaps a little bit of insight, particularly on, you know, with Alison's last slide in mind, about how we will be preparing for Christmas and other issues around the visitor experience.
Okay, thanks, Dina. I would echo Alison's comments about the benefits of working together. Visit Bath, the bid, the council, the festivals. There's been some really constructive and imaginative and fleet of foot working as the things have changed with the pandemic. I mean, one of the first decisions that was made was that we couldn't have the traditional Christmas market. And I think what's happened recently is more than borne out. You know, that was a very sensible decision. But there is still the intention, as Alison's indicated, and I know that Bath Festivals, I've got a whole series of events planned on the lead up to Christmas. So all being well, Bath will still be an attractive place. Well, it's also an attractive place, but a really good place to come over the Christmas period. And I think that some of the locals might almost breathe a sigh of relief that they haven't got the whole Christmas market going on. It will be a different feel. So there are a series of things that are happening in the lead up to Christmas, all brought together and through the joint working. We're also looking at how we make Visit Bath even more effective than it possibly has been from time to time, because we're working on a combination with Destination Bristol, so to create something that has a much more effective back office, because we're going to combine with South Gloucestershire, North Somerset, Bristol into a single back office, but with a public face that is still very clearly Visit Bath. What's happened to the tourism industry is that obviously during lockdown, the first lockdown, things ground almost a complete halt. Things were just getting off the ground again, and we were seeing the hotels starting to reopen, doing some reasonably good business. The Therme Bath bar reopened and was going well, because everything is now, as Alison's indicated, stopped all over again. If we do come out, as we are promised, on the 2nd of December, then we are well placed to get some of the benefits of visitors and some of the benefits of the run up into the Christmas period. But it is a really difficult period for the tourism and leisure industry, because a lot of the things that normally would happen, a lot of the visitors that would come from overseas, well, almost all the visitors that would come over from overseas have stopped coming. But we have seen visitors coming from other parts of the UK. So the hope is that if things stabilise, if we can reopen in the run to Christmas and through into the new year, there will be some modest activity. It won't be anything like the activity that normally takes place, which is why all the help that's available to businesses through financial support and other support and advice is really important. And then the last thing I just comment on is a lot of people in this area are employed in the leisure and tourism industry. And we have seen quite a range of furloughing and I think redundancies as well coming through in that sector. So again, the retraining that we talked about is going to be really important, because some of those people will need to be retrained into other roles. But the positive thing, I think, is that we will reinvent probably the mix of tourism into the Bath and North East Somerset area, and focusing on the high value tourism and leisure activities, maybe a little bit more than the mass tourism that's sometimes been a little bit of a problem in the past. So we're optimistic about next year, but it is going to be a difficult Christmas and New Year period for these businesses.
Thank you very much, Colin. And so the last speaker I'm going to bring in before, I think we've got a couple of minutes after that for a couple of questions. I'm going to ask David Hobday to speak. So I believe, David, you are the Chief Executive of possibly the largest charitable organisation in Bath and North East Somerset. And so I think it'd be very helpful to hear from you as a sort of a representative of the charity sector and voluntary sector in the area as well.
Thank you, Dina. Yeah, so I suppose first of all on the charitable front, obviously one of our biggest concerns has been the disproportionate impact that lockdown has had on people who are more disadvantaged, people who are more vulnerable, and actually what we're very fortunate in Bath that we've seen, like as in many other areas, we've seen charities come together, organisations work in partnership, and compassionate communities is a great outcome of that kind of collaboration. But I suppose what's really important about the third sector and the issues that we focus on and recognizing, I suppose, the impact of lockdown is perhaps what we can do as part of renewal and recovery to focus on more equal communities going forward. And this is about taking a much more holistic view of our community. So of course, we're very focused through the Economic Recovery Group and through organisations like the BID, which of course I also represent, in helping the business environment to improve. But great communities, of course, are hugely reliant on having very successful and diverse economies. But diverse economies and successful businesses themselves are dependent on other parts of the community operating well. And I think that's why it's really important. We've heard from people like Sue Rigby and Laurel Penrose in terms of the Restart programme, because what businesses need is to thrive. One of the things they need to thrive and to recover is access to appropriately skilled people. So I think more than anything, what's really close to my heart in terms of the work that we're doing through the Economic Recovery and Renewal Board is having that holistic view and understanding that there's an awful lot of things that we've got to do in the here and now to support businesses to recover, but there are also really important things about the way we envision Bath being different in the future, which I think will make for a richer, more diverse, more balanced economy and a more equal community.
Thank you very much. So I'm now going to move on to a couple of questions, having given you a sort of a flavour of the sorts of topics that we cover at the Economic Recovery and Renewal Board. And one of the questions that's come in is from Andrew West, and it is around financial support, and it suggests that self-employed people who may have slipped through the net, who don't qualify for the SE government grants, are they going to be helped with the next lot of support that we've been given? So I think maybe Simon might be waiting to answer this question.
Yeah, thank you, Dina. Yes, under the Discretionary Grant Award, we can now help self-employed people, as long as they meet the criteria that are set out in the grant application process. It is open to applicants who are self-employed. And there are 2 levels of grant that are on offer through that scheme. Grants of up to £1,000 for businesses that employ up to 10 people, and grants of £1,500 for those that employ 11 to 49 people. So that would also cover self-employed people, but I do stress there are certain criteria that applicants need to apply to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon. So one of the points that I think has been made by I think pretty much all of our speakers so far is about the value of partnership, about the value of working together, about being connected. And as we have experienced, certainly in the early part of this particular webinar, we've all had some slight issues with connectivity. So I was going to invite our Director for Economic and Growth, John Wilkinson, to perhaps say a little bit about the work the Council is doing and other partners in trying to address connectivity problems, including, are we going to get better broadband, John?
Thank you, Dina. The government's commitment to full fibre broadband across the whole country is certainly helping. And what we've seen in the last 6 months is that the large telecoms providers have started to wake up and perhaps be more encouraged and incentivised to start to deliver to some of the more challenging parts of not just Bath and North East Somerset, but the country as a whole. So we've had some approaches from some of those major telecoms firms to say that they are planning to roll out further networks, full fibre networks across the district, which is really good news. And if you go on to Bath Unlimited, you will see a story about one of our homegrown telecoms providers, TrueSpeed, who are also rolling out full fibre networks across the district. So I'd encourage people to continue to get in touch with their telecoms providers to see what is coming. We are also part of a nationwide programme that's delivered in local areas. Our local area we call Connecting Devon and Somerset, and that is a government funded scheme to deliver super fast broadband to the areas that the market won't cover. We are in the process of procuring the second phase of that. That's a live procurement, and that will hopefully close the gap in super fast broadband that's going to be that's available. So it closes the gap between what the market provides and what they don't provide. So look out for news of the provider of that programme, which will be announced in the new year, which will be helpful. And then finally, just in relation to our board here, I'm delighted to say that a number of the partners on the call and on the board are working together to write and deliver a digital strategy for Bath and North East Somerset. A number of nods on the call, and you'll be able to see who the people are that are involved in it, which also involves the University of Bath, who aren't able to be on the call today, but who are very centrally involved in that. And clearly we would welcome other partners coming on board with that digital strategy, because I know that there are a number of real experts in this field across the district.
Thank you very much, John. And I'm now, for the final question, I'm actually going to pose this to Ian Bell because of his connections with businesses across the district. And I suspect there'll be many who will be, wondering whether or not this board is too Bath-centric. And I just wondered if, Ian, perhaps you could share your views on that topic.
It's not Bath-centric, Dina. I remind you, by my virtual background, every time we meet, of the glories of the Chew Valley and the rest of North East Somerset. The truth is that Bath is the economic engine for North East Somerset. We can't get away from that. That's a fact, and we need to make sure that the economic engine is healthy, that the oil is clean and tidy, and the exhaust fumes are as limited as possible. I think the point I'd really like to make, though, is about the uncertainty that we're facing. There's uncertainty. What does home versus office working look like in the future? A lot of companies are assuming that there'll be more of a mix What impact will that have on the demand for office space? Uncertain. We've discovered many of our companies have pivoted, is the phraseology I'm using now, showing how modern I am, into looking at ways in which they can work differently, but they're discovering that there's an issue about mental health, about people who've got maybe living in shared accommodation. It's difficult for them to deal with. And another new one that's just popping up is junior staff failing to have the interaction with more experienced staff just to pick up the tricks of the trade as they're going along, just sitting in meetings where they don't seem to be learning very much. But you know what? You go to a few meetings with Colin Skellett, you learn a few tricks of the trade that will serve you very, very well. And that's something that we're just slightly missing. And so there's uncertainty. But what I would say, though, is that vaccine or no vaccine, there's huge optimism and that remains. We've got a massive brain power in this place, and I'm confident that we've got the ability to be able to do it. Listen to what Sue and Laurel were saying before about the kind of retraining programs that they've got ready. They're not quite sure what they're going to look like, but they're poised, they're flexible, they're just going to be delivering what we need. So uncertainty, yes, but I think we can be optimistic at the same time.
Thank you very much, Ian. Now, I'm conscious that we've got a few more people on the panel who haven't spoken, and I'm just giving a bit of an opportunity to speak now if you would like to. I won't call you out, so you'll know if you haven't spoken, and you'll also know if you want to speak. You'll also be grateful, I guess, that I didn't allow that same opportunity to anybody else. Sorry, I had a small moment there with my screen's freezing. Okay, so Richard, as you've unmuted, does that mean you're poised and ready to speak?
Not to say, Dina, thank you, but just to say that I think it's been a really interesting experience for me to join this group and the activities that have come out of it, because I think there's been I think it's a very diverse group of different types of organisations that have different perspectives on things, which I think has been really helpful. But also some of the activities have been again very different, but also quite impactful in a very short period of time, and I think that's been really telling. So so it's just been a good, interesting experience being part of this, and looking forward to how all those different pieces start to show some rewards for Bath.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. I think that's probably a really good place to end this webinar. I think we've slightly overrun in our times, and so if you have managed to stay to the end, thank you for that. I think from my point of view, it's really brought home what an interesting, diverse mix of different businesses, different bodies that can work together. It really emphasises that value of partnership, and it's, as I think I said it earlier, that Bath and North East Somerset is really an ecosystem. So all of us are working together, and we're all sort of interwoven. And I think that will really play well as we move, into the recovery phase and renewal as well. So I'd like just to end by saying thank you to all the panelists for joining me today. Thank you to all our board members who may not have been able to join us, and thank you as ever to everybody who has been watching and for the questions that have been sent in. And so on that note, I would like to close our Economic Recovery and Renewal Board webinar. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.